friends, it's Nicole Martell here with the cherry on top. Today I am playing with stamps and stencils and ink to make a birthday card for a friend. It's that time of the year where I don't have any birthday cards and it's time for me to go ahead and make a few so that I have them. And to begin, I'm using Taylor Expressions A2 panel card, and I have their bases as well for this. And I'm also using Pinkfresh Studios Timeless Tulip stamps with the stencils, and also the On My Mind stamp set that has sentiments on there. So to begin, I'm just going to go ahead and stamp the image right on here using my Misty, using the VersaFine Clear ink. I like this ink because it's very crisp and it dries fast. And so I'm going to go ahead and make sure, I usually do it about 3 times, just so that I know that all the images are clear and there are no like faded areas. And so once I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and tape the back of this panel on the glass mat so that it stays put once I do the stencils. And I just love this card, like it's so fun. The stencils really make these stamps come to life, and it really does make the process easy. So you just make sure that you line up the stencils, and before I started, I made sure all the stencils were in order, 1 through 5 I think this one has, and then I decided to look at the colors that I have, and that's another hard part. The hardest part is finding a color that you want to do for the set. And so I am using these colors. I'm using Sky Blue, Raspberry Bliss, and Candy Violet, one at a time, with my blending brushes. And when I blend through the stencil, I'm going in like circular motion, just so that I can get a nice even blend. Now this one is tricky because there's no spacing. It's open. So I'm just carefully blending the different colors on the tulips, because I didn't want to just do all one color. I kind of want to make it colorful and spring-like. And so I'm just doing one at a time, and I'm just being very careful not to blend in with the other colors. And it's just so pretty. And then this central here, I'm just making sure I line that up because those are the lines of the tulip. And then I'm just going through, and I want to make sure I had the right color before I went to the next one. And that's the purple one. Okay. And then this one, I did realize that I'm going to come back to this, but this particular stencil, I didn't blend it enough, so the lines are missing, and I'll show you what I mean later, and we'll fix it. And then this is my favorite one, is the greenery, because it really makes it pop. I'm using the Emerald City ink, and I'm going in as light as I can, because what I'm going to do is the stencil after this is another greenery set, and I want that to be a little bit darker, but I'm using the same exact ink. So the trick is to go light-handed on this one. There's some I didn't do quite light-handed, but you'll get the idea. This is the next stencil where I'm going to go ahead and go a little heavier on the hand because I want it to be very dark to break up that first shade of green. And I just love this process. Ink blending is so much fun. If you haven't tried these stencils with the stamps, go ahead and give them a try, because I tried it and I fell in love. I have so many of these stamps, and I use them regularly for my birthday cards. And now I'm looking for a sentiment. Now that the stencil's all blended in, the images is all good, I'm going to go ahead and clean my stamp real quick using alcohol, ink, or alcohol, and fiber cloth. That's a trick I learned from one of my Pinkfresh studio classes. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and stamp this a few times just to make sure the sentiment is dark. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my dies to cut this out. And wishing you a beautiful birthday. Well, so I'm just looking, I'm gonna cut this out here, and then once this is cut out, I'm gonna cut a few more blank ones. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna glue them together to create a thicker die cut, if that makes sense. And that way you don't need to use foam strips for that if you do it that way. And so I'm gonna go ahead and find some scraps. I'm gonna have to get that tape off. I know it's the one thing I do, if you notice, I do tape my metal dies on the sentiment so that they don't slip when I run it through the machine, because the worst thing you want to do is spend all this time stamping and it slips and you got to do it all over again. So I just tape that when I do the actual sentiment part. And I'm just doing this one at a time. I don't even tape these down because it's just on plain cardstock. It doesn't really matter. Alright, and now I'm going to glue these pieces together. I have 3 whites that I am going to glue together, and then I'm going to glue the sentiment at the top. And then hopefully you'll be able to see the difference, because just one kind of makes it flat. And when I am working on a card, I really want it to be a lot of dimension and color and super pretty. So I'm just gluing these together, and then here's the sentiment. And I like that. If you can, I use my fingers to kind of scissor it, so I had glue on my fingers. I didn't want to ruin it. Alright, now I'm going to fold the card base in half, and then as you can see, I used this and made a mistake. So don't throw your scraps away. You can use them over again. No one's going to know. Alright, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the foam strips to the back and place it on the card. And then I'm going to glue this right on here. And I'm just being very careful where I put this and lining it up straight. There we go. I love that. It's so pretty. Makes me so happy. I'm ready for spring. Okay, now I am going to go ahead and add some emerald glitter drops just to bring this together. I just need a little sparkle. And these are so pretty. These are my favorite. And I'm looking for like the larger one to place under here, and then a tiny one. And I always struggle with these things because I never know where to put them. So you put them wherever you want. I am very meticulous. So I like everything to look good and perfect, which is wrong, I know. But I fuss with this. So it took me a while to get these gems where they are. And then I was going to do 3 together in a cluster, and I didn't like the way it looked. So I stuck with 2. Most people do 2 or 3, actually, but I decided to just do 2. And I think it looks okay. And I love that green. It's really pretty. And then I was going to bring some down here, but I felt like I was overdoing it. I just wanted a couple of them, you know. And there's my card. And so remember earlier I said I messed up on the stencil part. It's not as crisp. And I think that's why, because I didn't press down hard enough with it, and it just blended in with the normal blue. So what I'm going to do is go back in, and I'm going to press really hard to get those lines on that tulip so that I can finish this. And then I'm just being careful not to move the stencil, because I normally tape it down, but because I'm in a hurry, I didn't do that. I'm just going to go ahead and put these lines on the tulips. And I'm making sure I pay attention to the colors and the brushes. And look at that. Huge difference. So I love this. I hope you're inspired to start making cards. And thank you so much for visiting today and watching. Take care.